Welcome, everyone. This is William McBurr, leader of the Alignable Industry Group, the technology industry group. Welcome to our second group Lunch and Learn. I took over this group about a month ago with the goal of creating events instead of fostering relationships, fostering learning amongst the members of this group. And as part of that effort, we do two types of events. We do our Smart Connects bi-weekly, every 2 weeks. The next one is this Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. This is an opportunity for you to meet with other technology business owners and establish relationships, right? Determine where there may be synergies and follow up with those folks and establish relationships with them to benefit your business, their business, and benefit all of the members of the group. The other type of events that we host here are Lunch and Learn. So these are educational webinars because all of us are technology business owners. We are experts in some vertical. And we all know things, we all have experience in things that could be beneficial to the rest of us. And this provides a forum for you to share your expertise with the group, and in doing so, promote your business, by virtue of calling folks to your banner because they want to benefit from your expertise. So with that said, before I introduce our illustrious presenter, some housekeeping. There is a Q&A panel. There's a Q&A button at the bottom. So as questions arise, do post your questions. Heather can choose to answer them in turn or answer them at the end. I know we also have some time dedicated to Q&A at the end for questions that folks might have. So without further ado, I want to introduce Heather Noggle. Heather is the head of Codistac, right?
Yes.
And I'll give her an opportunity to tell us all that she does. One of the things that I can share with the group is that I was very excited to have Heather as a presenter because she has such broad expertise in a lot of different areas. So as opposed to me abbreviating what it is that she does, Heather, please introduce yourself, and the floor is yours. Take it away.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Heather Noggle, and I do own Codistac as my consulting business. I'm also part owner of a SaaS business in the export compliance space that I worked for 22 whole years, and then left the day-to-day to that, and my business partner runs that now. I'm also volunteering everywhere, and if anybody has any questions about that at the end, I can talk about Missouri Cybersecurity Center of Excellence and some of the board work I do. This is a really somewhat dull but stinging topic, so I'm trying to be as engaged and energetic about this as possible. We'll get through it pretty quickly. Probably the gold is in the conversation we have after it. So without too much further ado, I'll go ahead and share my screen and get going on this presentation. And you can see that now, the Corporate Transparency Act. See if I can get the housekeeping here. There. So what is this thing, the Corporate Transparency Act? It is something that was enacted all the way back in 2021 as part of the National Defense Authorization Act, which is something I haven't actually heard of. But reporting requirements for it began this year on January 1st. The thing to remember here is that if your business existed before January 1st, 2024, you've got a little bit of time before you have to actually do your filing. And I'll get through what that means in terms of filing. But if you've started your business this year, pay very close attention to some of the dates coming up in these slides as I talk through it. How do I even know about this thing? That's one of the biggest concerns I have with Corporate Transparency Act, is it's not something that's easy to know about, and that's one of its fallacies. I was sitting at a conference in Northwest Arkansas. It was the Northwest Arkansas Tech Summit back in late October of 2023, and just having a conversation with fellow entrepreneurs. And I was talking with a lawyer in the area who helps people set up their businesses, especially tech companies. And I asked him what the hairiest thing he was working on was. We had a little lull in our conversation. And so what he brought up was this Corporate Transparency Act. Of course, I said, I've never heard of that. Tell me about it. And he spent 20 minutes doing that. And when I was done talking with him, it was very clear this is something everybody needs to know something about. So that's how we came to be here today. So we've got a raised hand. What is that? My little story though is, all right. So the upshot of my story there is that everybody does need to care if you own a business. Most of us are going to be covered over who needs to file. And so given that we probably need to care, we're going to go ahead and explore it just to see. So why is this thing here, this Corporate Transparency Act? If you ask FinCEN, the government agency that put it in place, they will tell you that it's to combat money laundering and to unmask terrorist funding, to fight general corruption, and to diminish tax fraud. They're seeking to find these shell companies that nefarious things are happening behind. And so this program is owned and administered by FinCEN in the US government. So now we know why it's here. If you go to their website, and we will in a little bit, you'll notice that there's a lawsuit. And that's something they actually do point out, that lawsuit. So on March 1st of 2024, this year in Alabama is where this lawsuit was decided. And guess what? The Alabama court said, hey, that sounds constitutional. And what the upshot of that means is nothing for us. There's a lawsuit out there. It's been deemed unconstitutional. And the only people who don't have to file because of this lawsuit are the plaintiffs of the exact lawsuit. So to you, me, and all of our friends who own businesses, it means absolutely nothing at this point. So we still have to file. And that's the piece we need to focus on and need to know. The government is appealing this decision because it really wants all those plaintiffs filing info in addition to our own. And also, that's just more money and time eaten up in whatever they're trying to do here. There is a link down here if you want to read about that lawsuit. Also, there's going to be a link on the Corporate Transparency Act website. I'll point to it. So if you want to screenshot this slide, if you're super interested, you could do that. So here's an overview of it and two key URLs. We're going to be going into, I think, this bottom one. So again, if you want to dig into it, you can just Google it too, and you can find the BOI, or beneficial ownership information, or BOI for fun. That is what they're trying to capture, is this beneficial ownership information. Who owns this company and benefits financially from it? So this is a super high level overview. We're going to get this overview again in a couple slides a little deeper down. You have to file the organization's information and then information about each individual owner who benefits from owning this company. So there are a total of about 50 different data elements we'll briefly go over. And that's if you just have one owner. If you've got like 5 or 6, it can be a pain. So back to that, who? The owners. And to be very, very general, S Corp owners, C Corp owners for the smaller businesses, and the LLCs, which I think most of us are probably going to fall under. So yes, we are going to need to file. I've said a lot of yeses here. There are other domestic private company types and their owners. And this is super important. For some reason, if the company is incorporated as a foreign company, formed under foreign law, but it does business here, it's got to file too. So the best and safest practice with this Corporate Transparency Act is to assume that you do indeed have to file, and then you can go ahead and get that giant exemption list, a bowl of chocolate, cup of coffee, wine, whatever. It'll take a while to go through those. But they tend to have a lot of small things in common, like their banks, credit unions. I've got public utilities listed here, accounting firms, etc. Sole proprietors don't have to file, but I don't know exactly. I didn't dig deeply enough into that to see what exactly that means. So again, assume you have to file and then go looking at those exemptions. And this is a big key thing, so I put it in red. So I have this LLC. What if it's dormant? Do I have to file? Well, the way they define dormant in here is a little bit interesting, and the definitions show here. So your company has to be in existence before the pandemic, essentially, 1/1/2020. To be dormant. It has to be not doing any business. So you did the thing, maybe you worked on it, but it's not in business. It's not owned by foreign persons. If foreign persons own it, it can never be dormant. There've been no changes in that ownership in the last 12 months. And then there's no money sent, no money received in those same last 12 months. No client initiated activity within 180 days, and the company is not holding assets. So to run down this scenario, if you form your company in 2021, but you haven't touched it, it's not dormant according to this legal definition here. You're own foreign owned for some reason, you're never dormant. And the example I like to give here is, say you've got a baker in your family, and that baker went ahead and formed a company and just does an occasional, maybe once a month, a big dinner for somebody. Has an LLC, but it's really easy to go through. How is my baker cousin or friend even going to know about the Corporate Transparency Act, especially if this person is fairly tax savvy and does her own taxes? So that's a real concern there. We've been through who, we've been through what the government said it was. Now it's what am I filing? So you're going to file this beneficial ownership information, and there's a little bit more detail from the previous slide a couple back. The main sections on this are filing information and then information about the reporting company, who's doing the reporting, whether it's on behalf of another company or whether it is actually you filing your own information, the company applicants, and then the beneficial owners. And I will go through this in just a quick demo. And that's now. So this portion of our program is sponsored by the Beneficial Ownership Information website. They call it the Beneficial Ownership Information Reporting, and the acronym there of BOIR is actually the verb to drink in French. So take that or leave it. So I may hop on over and I'll show my, I went past it. I'll show you the government website. So here it is, the fincen.gov//boy. And over here we have the beneficial ownership information. I make that just a bit smaller so it all fits there. And then to actually go in and do the filing, you're going to click here. If you need to do additional preparation and go through the exemption list, etc., you can go over here. They make a big deal about this FinCEN ID. I will recommend, even though they say it's optional, that you go ahead and create that FinCEN ID because you're going to need it to do updates smoothly, and updates is something we're going to cover here a little bit later. So we come in here, and now is the time. We shall click. And we get this screen here. I don't know why this is so complicated because I just said I wanted to file, but I got to click again to do so. I think these are the same thing. But just in case you're here on accident and you need the Bank Secrecy Act, you could go do that too. All right, here we go. This is what I was expecting. Two different ways to do a traditional filing. One is through their interactive PDF and the other is online. We're going to be doing the demo on the online, but I will briefly show you that PDF. Yeah, I just went past it. And it is underneath here. So it's an interactive PDF with the form and it just government. It is a handy way to take a look at it in its entirety. And again, I will be going much slower on the website, but I said it's about 50 data elements. You can see how that is. So that's one option. I don't recommend doing PDF interactive stuff whenever I have another option. So we'll go ahead and do a fake filing here on our online BOIR. It does let you know, since it's not a PDF, you don't need the Adobe Reader. And let's just do this. This is a government website, so do not misrepresent yourself, which if you were going to do that, you probably wouldn't be here anyway. So we come through here, and I'm going to make it bigger again. And all these data elements, you just spend time, they tend to do a pretty good job of talking about what these things mean if you mouse over. So that's kind of a nice thing to know. You got a little asterisks talking about the things that are required. So that's standard web practices there. Now autofill that. Stuff about paperwork reduction. We're going to do an initial report that we're not going to finish. And so here again, I recommend you go ahead and request that FinCEN ID. I'm going to hope that nobody is a foreign pooled investment vehicle, but if you need to know what that is, just mouse over and go on down. Same thing here. If you need help, you can do the drop down thing, getting help on all that stuff, get your legal name, put it in. If you got a DBA, oops, better put in legal name. the Not Now Corporation. Forms of identification, you will need to be uploading those forms of identification, so you're going to have to pick what you're doing here, whether you're an EIN or you got your social security number and the foreign stuff. One of the things that's interesting is because I think they went on their design first on the PDF where they have to cram everything on the form. The website then is designed just like the paper form would be. There's a whole lot in here about tribal jurisdictions, etc., that you just have to click past and ignore, which is a little clunky in the UI. So they didn't segregate that by asking you in the beginning, are you governed by something like that? Are you foreign? And they could have made the website better, but it's still followable. I do have a write-up on this if anybody's interested that does go through line by line what these things mean. I'm not going to spend a long time here on what the country and jurisdiction should be, other than to point out you can mouse over that and see that the tribal jurisdiction things are in here. Then your address, and it's a standard address sort of thing. This is a US address, and then they've got it segregated out when you have to do the foreign things. Existing reporting company. As of January 1, 2024, are we active? And then they do these things here, like this is reserved for future use. It's kind of like back in the days when we used to do software development with line numbers. I guess it's kind of like that. And then the applicant information. This is where you add one of those. And then get the FinCEN IDs we got to have going around here. That's why I recommend that you have one. And then you add it in there. You can remove one, etc. Basic how we do things with the web. Identifying information, including birth date, more address things. They are all laid out like this. Another form of identification sort of thing. Gotta upload it and do the things. And then we get to the beneficial owners section, and they've even thought about the fact that it could be a minor child who owns this business, which I'm not sure how they do that, but you gotta put in parent guardian information if that's the case. And then you got your FinCEN ID again that they tell you is optional, but again. And then if you're exempt, whatever that means, I don't remember. I still don't really know. So that'd be something to look into. You're probably not exempt. The legal information about birth date, etc. More address information, more forms. It does seem to iterate pretty well in here. And then when you're finally ready to do this and submit, after going through all these sections here, you're going to put your email in twice, first name and last name, you're going to certify, and then read their salmon colored willful failure notice, click picture human, and go. Some other options here too. We can talk about this if people have questions about it, but I'm not going to spend too much time on the super geeky things. There's another option on this filing, and that is if you were to make a business out of this and do the filing for other people. Like I think accountants might, accounting and advisory accounting firms might have a good time doing this. There is an API, and the API guide here, you have to ask the government for it, which I went ahead and did because I was crazy curious about this. It's about 22 pages long here. And then you also have the XML guide for the payload. Everything's in XML. I read through that, and it's pretty standard and easy to follow, especially if you've seen the PDF form and can correspond back and forth. That's the greatest use I've seen for the PDF form, is in validating how the XML lays out. So know that those are both here, and I will take questions about them, but I'm not going to go through them. That XML guide, let me go back to my slides. I think it's about 45 pages long. Yeah, okay. I jumped the gun there and showed you the things. So these are the 3 ways to file. I'll just recap that after that short demo. The PDF, the online that we went through, and then that system-to-system API, and the 43 pages on the XML, the 23 pages on that API. All right. Now, more detail. When do I need to file? We've already covered that if we were in existence before, as a company, before 1/1/2024, we've got the whole year. We have to file. We have to file all this information about our beneficial owners some point in 2024. However, if we started business on the 2nd of January 2024, we should have already have filed. Hopefully that's not the case for anybody here, but if you start a business in 2024, you have only 90 days for that initial filing. Then they're going to make that even more stringent and difficult for businesses starting on the 1st of January in 2025 or thereafter, and only have 30 days from inception to file. It feels like kind of licensing a new car. The good news, if there is any, is that you don't have to go through this exercise every year. Instead, when there are changes, you need to update your filing. So if you have ownership changes, you've got 30 days from when those take effect to update whatever you need to update within this beneficial ownership information. I wasn't really sure about company and address and other company changes. I didn't see anything specific to that. So I just put that that's iffy. And since 30 days seems to be the default on things that are, that's the safest time frame, I would make those changes within 30 days. And if you find you've omitted or typoed or done something wrong on your filing from date of discovery, you've got 30 days to make those changes. And then there's the why from the perspective of the business owner. We know why the government thinks it wants to do this. Well, we need to comply with the law. And here's the kicker, and the thing that makes me somewhat angry about the Corporate Transparency Act. Look at the violation set. Civil penalty of up to $500 a day. Each day the violation continues, whether or not you know you need to do this. Probably this is geared toward intent, like you need to do it and you're just like, never mind. But there are also criminal penalties possible, up to $10,000 fine and 2 years in prison. Yeah. There are some unintended consequences of the Corporate Transparency Act. There's a burden on service providers, like your accountants and your lawyers who may advise you on how to set up your company based on what you're hoping to do with it. They are now in burdens in terms of having reporting they have to do for having advised you. Accountants will probably feel the same thing. So they're going to pass those costs on to you, business owner, because those are services they now have to provide or additional paperwork they have to do. And in the case of the lawyer I spoke with in Northwest Arkansas, he's going to stop advising LLCs altogether. And that's just a shame, because when people are setting up their companies, they need some business advice that's sound and helpful. And I'm hopeful that businesses can learn about these things from their small business development centers. But if you're already in business and you're doing well, you may not be checking the resources that they offer. And I'm somewhat concerned that many small businesses don't know what they need to know about this, especially if they're doing their own taxes. Next, you saw it on the screen for the official website. There are Corporate Transparency Act filing scams. I think that they were very prevalent before the official website was ready to go. The earlier iteration, the one in 2023, was really clunky and hard to understand, but they did have that front and center that there are filing scams. And I see a lot of government filing scams. The people who own my SaaS company before I owned it fell for one on the patent side, where they were paying for some patent service that didn't do anything. And it's just a matter of the old switcheroo. It comes through with an official address, but you remit payment via via snail mail to a different address. So the bait and switch there. So the idea that the scams, this is just one other attack vectors, because when people hear about this and they hear about the associated fines and they hear about jail time, they're going to be emotionally triggered, especially if the window is closed or they're already late. And then of course the government has your data again. I do want to read this at the bottom, even though it's a bit of a long quote. SHRM, or SHRM, is the Society of Human Resource Managers. The CTA, or the Corporate Transparency Act, creates a federal disclosure requirement mandating that lawyers, trustees, and accountants declare their association with the entities they create and understand their true owners. Burden. The CTA stipulates that individuals who create new entities be reported to the government as company applicants. This means corporate service providers will be associated in a federal database with the entities they create and potentially with any future misdeeds of those entities. So you can see why my new lawyer friend there didn't want anything to do with this. So within that presentation, I want to leave with some calls to action and of course a Q&A. If you have to file, and many of you or all of you and I will have to do so, do it as appropriate. I think for the businesses we own, we're going to be waiting until November, just in the odd chance that it might be repealed because they have been in existence long enough that we do have the full year. Please tell your friends, especially the bakers and the really the heart of small business, that they need to know about this Corporate Transparency Act. They need to know about the beneficial ownership information they need to file, and of course, follow the law for changes. I'd like the rest of the time to be for conversation, so I'm going to leave with this here for the question set. There's me last week speaking in Northwest Arkansas about small businesses and cybersecurity. How am I qualified to do this conversation? I'm really not, other than the fact that, like you, I'm a small business owner and I did a bunch of research on this, wrote a couple blog posts on it, featured it on a newsletter, and became the de facto local town crier for Corporate Transparency Act. What I am, though, is somebody who makes a lot of silly AI images. I tend to write on LinkedIn every day, and I have a different one in there, and I often have black cats in them, which is a long story. I'm a strong writer. I write every day, like I mentioned. I am a regular speaker at events, often having to do with cybersecurity. And I do have that 25-year tech career, but mostly in software, as you might have guessed from the SaaS business ownership. Lately, though, I am really passionate about cybersecurity the last few years. It used to be in the 90s that you were cutting edge if you were making software, you're making things happen for business. Now the cutting edge and where everybody's needed is in securing all those things that we built. If I had the dream career and work just came to me out of nowhere, it would all be about software requirements, especially secure software requirements. And I really enjoyed that part of my career where I stepped out of day-to-day software development and sat down with users and determined what is it exactly that we need to do and make sure that aligned with business interests and also could be developed efficiently, effectively, etc. And right now, what I'm doing, besides a whole lot of volunteerism, you can ask about that if you'd like to, is I'm primarily a tech business advisor, especially in the areas of marketing and message and operations. And with that, I'll start taking some questions here. We can have some conversations. What do we got? Can I see all this? I'm hoping that's the questions. All right. It says chat is disabled.
Yes, I'm not sure. So I just posted a message in the chat to see if.
Yeah, we're getting them from several of you. I wasn't able to either. Let me see. It's always funny when we're a bunch of technical practitioners and the technology fails. It's not very funny, is it?
I think
So
that's
you can see on my screen, I can only do hosts and panelists and you.
yeah. So I guess the chat is disabled. That's something that was probably configured in the. Oh, I'm
We'll
sorry.
see.
Nope. I've enabled the chat now.
All right, we got chat enabled. The website, I will put that slide on the screen. Let's get back there. There we go. That's the starting place. FinCEN.gov/BOI.
So
All right.
what I'm going to do, we have a smaller group here. I'm going to allow folks to speak so that you
Okay,
don't
I like it.
questions.
I'm putting my thing right over. Hello?
Hello. This seems scary. I
It
mean, holy
does.
smokes. How is the average person ever going to know about this stuff?
I'm going to shout it from the mountaintops like I do about cybersecurity, but yeah, I'm not going to reach everybody. It is scary. I'm hopeful your accountant will tell you. But, you know, we're past April 15th. Maybe not.
Like
you said, a lot of folks do their own taxes too. So
I do my own
Yep.
taxes.
yeah, like I
Yeah.
did. This didn't come up in my TurboTax. You know, that was going through it.
All right. So I need to write about that tomorrow, that TurboTax is not talking about corporate transparency. Good.
Well, and I think that was the difference, right? Because
Yeah.
if you filed as a sole proprietor versus an S corp, and so probably because I clicked that I filed as a sole proprietor, even though I'm an LLC. So again, I'm fairly new, so it's probably one of those. It depends on. To my understanding, it's how you file versus how you are viewed, right, by the government. Now, I couldn't help but notice I was going through the exemptions from the CTA. And Heather, by the way, this was great information, really, really well put together, easy to follow. I'm already on it. But and I get the purpose, so people don't just set up random shell companies and there's just a bunch of money laundering going on, et cetera, et cetera. So then why is it at least 10 of the 23 exemptions are in the financial services? If you're a
I thought
broker,
that as
dealer,
well.
security exchange, other exchange, investment companies, venture capitals, I'm like, these are the people. Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't these the companies that were not the Etsy, knitter,
Mhm.
right?
Yep. I'm going to check Etsy too. You've given me an
Hello?
idea. I think I know the answer to that in the research I've done is that these companies already have so much they already have to file. So this information is trapped in other systems, but you know how system sharings go. So I don't know. They may or
Yeah.
may not.
Well, and then so then
Hello?
to that point, if they already do, right, then what's missing? Making every mom pop LLC give their information one more time seems silly. And especially the tax identification type, right? I've got an EIN, I put that in and it wants me to upload my EIN. You already have, I got it from you.
Yep.
I I received it from you. I received it from the state. I received it from the, federal government. Anyways,
I would myself was in rant mode, so I understand. Yeah, it's
Don, you had
yes.
I just
Yes.
tried to plug it into my
Yeah.
computer and I can't get this website to pull up.
Did I do it
Hello?
wrong?
Can you guys hear me?
Hey, Don, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes. So, thank you for the talk. This is Heather. Yes, you're doing God's work. So I came across this quite a while ago on YouTube. Okay, believe it or not, on YouTube. So there's a ton of YouTube videos on this. Just kind of let the algorithm do the work for you. I went ahead and I filed right around the time that I did my taxes. I knew about the lawsuit that was coming down, but I figured I'd just go ahead and file anyway. My question is this going to be like a regular requirement every single year? Or once you file, it's pretty much you print out your receipt and you're done? I'm sorry if I missed that earlier in the talk.
The good news is you are one and done unless you have changes. So some sort of qualifying event, like a change in ownership, maybe a change of address. I'm going to assume that's the case. And I would get that done within 30 days is what I recommend. If you've got something that qualifies, yes, something changed in my business and I need to make a change to beneficial ownership information.
Gotcha. And if you bring on another, if I approach an accounting firm, would this be a part of their checklist to say, hey, have you done this? Have you done this? Or is this something I need to bring up to the accounting firm to say, hey, yeah, I've done my fins cert stuff? Because if I'm not mistaken, I think it was either my tax people or my state that let me know to file. I'm in Florida, by the way. So.
Okay. I would hope they will tell you, but I have no idea. I brought it up with my own account. We had to get a new one because ours retired this year. And so, with this being my thing, I was like, so tell me what you do for corporate transparency. And then they're like, yeah, okay, we're good.
Raj, thank you so much.
I'm gonna open up this chat in case people are putting questions there. Yep. Agree.
So Don had mentioned
Board member of a nonprofit, I do not believe so, Andrew. I am also a board member of a nonprofit. I hadn't even thought of it from that perspective. You're not benefiting from ownership there since the nature of the business there as a nonprofit business. Okay. Who's next?
So someone had mentioned that they weren't able to access the website. I'm able to access the website fine.
Okay.
I know that, and I will admit, Heather, I work in a cybersecurity space where a lot of the work that I do is driven by regulations, right? Because we primarily focus on, highly regulated industries, right? Financial services, healthcare, the government contracting, etc. This was not on my radar at all until you and I spoke. And to reference Don's point, he came across it on YouTube. Are there any type of awareness activities that the government is doing to make business owners aware of this?
Well, if you happen to find yourself on the FinSun website, they'll tell you all about it, but not that I've seen. I look for it because it's on my radar, and it's one of those things I grab onto and say, people need to know, just like cybersecurity. But I don't think they're doing a good job at all. And with those stiff penalties, that's just downright scary. And so I can see why on March 1st that the Alabama court said this is unconstitutional. And it probably should have had a second line where it said nobody knows about it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured out what the problem is it has to be HTTPS, not
Yes, it
you can't.
does.
Okay, so that's an easy fix.
Yes, they probably ought to do that redirect on it, but you know, I'm
You
just
know, but they're too busy reviewing all of the
Heather, do you
yeah.
foresee the lawsuit in Georgia going nationwide? Is
I
that
think
why
that
you mentioned
with
wait
that
until
ruling, we
November?
will see more people who know about it railing, but half the problem is nobody knows they need to be fighting against it. So yeah, I think there'll be more lawsuits, and there's a chance that that's part of the reason I'm waiting till November is because I can, and that
That's
there's
fair.
a chance that they'll strike this down. And what a monumental effort it is to get this far, and then to have it not be anything helpful, which whether or not they strike it down, I will question its efficacy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I'm filling in any information. I'm just going through the motions that you were showing. And I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm showing any information that isn't already
Somewhere
public.
else in the government.
Yeah.
I know.
You know who I am. Like, you got my business name. What am I giving you that? I don't know. I'm with you. I hate redundant information, just another reason to,
Mhm.
I don't know.
We went in business to make it so that you don't have to type the same information on 5 forms, right? It's a superset of information that then gets used, but I just would guess that they're not good integrators, and they're certainly not good safe integrators in the government, I would also guess. What do we got here? Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, but I
Okay.
think one of the things that has well been established is that the government is not good at sharing information across agencies, right?
Yeah.
We are following with the IRS, and there are other agencies that have access to that information, but the government systems are not all integrated.
True.
So hence it leads to redundancy, especially for our part.
Yes.
All right.
Does anybody else know of anything else government that the rest of us might not know? Because that's probably a very good use of our time. Something you're running into with tech business.
So I can share a little bit of something around the work that I do.
Good.
Most of the consulting clients that we work with are defense contractors.
So CMMC stuff.
And the government has been, and the DoD has been working on the CMMC program that will require third-party certification for DoD contractors. But incidentally, this program has been in the works for past 4 years or so. An actual requirement, right, that the government is looking to verify, right, as part of this program has been required since 2017. But every day I talk to small business defense contractors who have no idea, right, of these significant changes in the acquisition rules that are going to significantly impact their ability to do business with the DoD. And it's a similar circumstance, right? There's a lot of awareness activities that the DoD and the cyber AB is doing, but somehow it doesn't get outside the bubble, right? And we meet businesses on a weekly basis that have never heard of this. Like, how is that possible?
And it is a major undertaking too. It's
Major.
not a small form like this.
Yes.
If you've got technical debt and you're not already pretty much ready to go before you learn of it, the amount of remediation you're going to have to do is intense.
Yeah, I mean, on average, right, the compliance effort takes 12 to 18 months.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really not something that you find out about before you need to submit for upcoming contract opportunity. So that's one example. Anyone have any others? So while we do that, based on my biases, Heather, share with us a little bit more about the cybersecurity work that you do.
Sure. I am affiliated. I've been volunteering for a year with Missouri Cybersecurity Center of Excellence, which is a program that is a nonprofit we've been trying to stand up. I've been on the steering committee. And the goal of that organization is threefold. It is to enhance our region's cybersecurity. So I live in a city that is a metro reach of about 500,000 people. And so it's the third largest city in Missouri, called Springfield, Missouri, is our area. And it is a college area. There are 4 decent sized universities. One of them is Missouri State University. And there's also a very strong community college here. And in the second pillar, we're looking to take our workforce that's coming out of the community college, coming out of the 4-year degree, some coming out of high school and some coming out of the military. And then that final facet is people who are looking for second careers, and to upskill them in cybersecurity. So we are just getting going. We got a hold of our building, but we have grant funded, and that is as of April the 1st. And so I am doing part-time work now. I've been volunteering for a year, but it's almost official enough for me to announce it to the world, and I can announce it to you, that I'm starting part-time in curriculum development for cybersecurity for the student portion of this. The third pillar is to serve area businesses and governments at an affordable rate. It's still going to be something where we have business development going on to help fund the programs, but as a 501(c) nonprofit, we can also take grant funding and corporate funding. And so those are the things we're trying to do all at once. So it feels like we're starting a startup, just because pretty much we are. We have, I think, 5 active contracts right now, and the SOC build out was last week. I got to see it yesterday, and just all the things we have to do so that we can start taking interns, hopefully one in the summer who can help with a little bit of program definition. It's someone I have in mind, and I talk with her about it. She's about to graduate as a second career person, graduate with an associate's in cybersecurity. So that would be a perfect first step of covering some of the students who will have some experience coming in and making sure people don't have to take training on things they're already qualified to do. So we've built a journey map for the students, and again, to try to interrelate that. And then we built that a few years back in the early efforts of the concept of this, and have to add some things because it was a few years back. We're gonna have to look at some emerging technology and some knowledge through that. And we have a whole section on that on power skills or soft skills too for technologists. So that's my big thing right now, in addition to the business consulting and the SaaS business advising that I own. That's my real passion work.
All of that is real music to my ears, right? Because I've been an adjunct college professor for 15 years. The first 4 years was at a local community college.
Mm-hmm.
So that pipeline through 2-year college to 4-year college into industry, I think is very important. And the SOC environment is a great learning environment. For students to really do OJT, right? On the job training.
That's exactly right. And we pay them, William.
Yes.
That's part of this program, is they are paid interns.
Yeah, absolutely. So I certainly commend you for your work. Prepayment, right? For all the volunteer hours and the blood, sweat, and tears that you sort of poured into this.
Yeah. It's been fascinating, though, to do something like that. And I'm a 25-year technologist, but when I walk in the room with the other people on the steering committee, I'm one of the least skilled. So that has been a real learning experience, to be that person in the room who's doing the learning, certainly contributing, but also just doing all sorts of learning. So it's been a blessing, and I think it's going to be wildly successful when we get our feet under us and can get some really good things done in this region and connect with all the other places around America that are doing similar things, because there are some others. But the real goal, if we can do what we want to do with this and do it fully, is to basically build this and put it in a box to say, here, start your own profit, Georgia, or here, Kentucky, start your own nonprofit doing this. Here's how to make it work. So it's a bold, audacious goal at this point, but I think it's possible in a few years to have that program built.
Does anyone else have any questions before?
There's something in the chat here. Oh, that's a good one. CapEx and OpEx. Oh, yeah, it's painful. I wish I knew more about that because we're certainly feeling that, Dave. He's listed here possible amortization of developer R&D costs and all that over 5 years. We are actually looking for a more knowledgeable accountant for my SaaS business because we're not as adept at that exact thing as we need to be. So do you want to come on to chat and open up your mic and talk about that before we go?
Yeah, I was throwing it out there because I wasn't sure it was definite yet. And I thought you might be able to really enlighten the rest of us. And I'm kind of in that category. Sorry, I'm not an expert. I just know that there is the distinct possibility that a small company could make $1 million in revenue,
Yeah.
and have $1 million in expenses for developers and development costs, and then only be able to write off 200 grand of that, and actually then owe taxes on a
Yes.
phantom 800,000 in revenue that doesn't exist. So that was a little bit worrying, and I'm not sure how it changes for having that development done outsourced. I still think there's a whole different cost structure for that too. And I just thought maybe you could enlighten me because you seem very knowledgeable, and I appreciate that.
About the corporate transparency, I am very knowledgeable, but I'm actually taking this exact question to a conference with a bunch of people who are cybersecurity business owners, and I'm going to get the answer on that because we too are like, that's scary. Yeah, you land one big customer and having those issues there if you're in an R&D phase and doing the development. Yes, it's exceptionally scary and it is a change. But I know less than you do. I thought you did a very nice job of summarizing what you know.
I would see this as particularly onerous for small business and startups, which, you know, yet again kind of makes sense because the large companies are not going to have any problem with this. You know, they've got huge HR departments, they've got deep pockets. This is not even something they would worry about with their army of accountants. But any of us who are trying to get over that ever increasing higher bar to entry, I would think this would be a little bit frightening and onerous on a small business.
Yeah, in a couple months we can probably give that and for another lunch and learn. Maybe you and I do that one together, maybe.
Well,
Woo.
you're giving me too much credit, but thank you.
So Heather, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
Okay.
When you signed up to do the lunch and learn, there were a couple of other topics that you proposed that, as you recall, I certainly said that we want to do those too, right?
Okay.
So one was AI and quantum computing for how those could potentially be leverageable for small businesses. And the other was on export restrictions.
Yes.
Another critical area that affects small businesses, especially those that are in the technology space. Can you chat about those at a high level?
Yes, I can. For the AI and the quantum, those are interest areas for me. And then especially just general things about knowing what to do when securing them. It would be a very high level talk, but the AI and the quantum are going to be pieces of the curriculum I'm building for Missouri Cybersecurity Center of Excellence. So it makes sense when I do my full research to talk about it other places as well. So that's where that interest area comes in. I have done a whole lot of trying to break generative AI for fun, and I can make it lie to me on command. I mean, I know we can all do that whether or not we intend to, but the things I have made it do, and even as recently as yesterday. So talk would be somewhat about that. The quantum I'm spending time in just because I had a company approach me to represent it and I didn't know enough. And so now I make a lot of quantum jokes. So there'd be a few of those too. The export compliance is the area of business my SaaS business works in. It produces export documentation for very large customers and some small ones too, and also does some of the due diligence ahead of time. And there's a whole lot of overlap that maybe as technologists we don't know in cybersecurity compliance and export compliance for certain technologies especially. And I haven't seen a whole lot of people who overlap in the field on that. There are a couple, but I was going to talk through some of the basics of best practices and where things are murky. So that would be a longer talk. I could probably get it in the hour, but probably not have a whole lot of time for questions on that to get any sort of depth on that.
There are a couple of things there that I certainly want to follow with you on. I'd certainly be interested in doing the export compliance next. I think that that is an area that's very important, especially for companies that create and develop technology.
Yes.
So we should certainly have a conversation about that.
All right, we'll do that.
Any other questions, comments, feedback from folks on the call?
Sure. I've been trying to figure out, I'm concerning, our S Corp has been around for 7 years. We were busy the first year, and then we've been basically dormant for 6 years. And I'm looking on here and I see inactive entity number 23 on the site, and you go try to find out what the requirements are, and I can't find any information. The
This
small
is what I've found, if that helps at all.
Yeah.
So 7 years, you definitely in existence before.
Well, what is there a limit on assets?
Yeah, it says you can't hold any.
Any, like 0?
Yeah, that's that. Well, if you hold assets, you're not dormant.
Well, assets meaning like a piece of equipment?
Yeah, I don't know. What is an asset? It's a big cybersecurity question. What is an asset? But yeah, I don't know. I didn't dig that deep.
I mean, where did you find this information? I can't find it on here on the website.
Yeah, I don't remember where I found that. I had a mind map I worked off of to do the presentation, and I built that mind map a few months ago when I did a big newsletter on it. So I don't have the attribution, but I bet if you work backwards and you start Googling these specific requirements, you'll find the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll just have to play with it.
Hopefully by November or so, it won't matter. But.
Yeah. Well, that was great. I haven't filed, so you've prompted me to have a conversation with my accounting about why I'm hearing about this from you.
From a technologist, yes.
That was very informative. Thank you for doing this. Thanks for all of who were able to join. We'll get the recording up and expect a follow-up from me, Heather, on a few things, including when we can do the export compliance, webinar for the group. So that's it. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you all at the Smart Connect on Thursday.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.